Hello, everybody. If it's Monday and for some reason we're online, that must mean because they decided to have Warhammer Fest this week, and so we're doing a little Warhammer Fest reaction show. So
You
joining.
probably shouldn't start shows like that anymore. Just
Why
saying.
isn't it? Why does it? It changed its screen. Oh, there we
Mm-hmm.
go. Are we? Okay, there we
Mm-hmm.
go. We're finally catching up. Sorry, I was watching the live feed and it was like being wonky.
Yep.
It screws up the thumbnail whenever I do that now. It's very annoying to me. So Streamlabs fix that. Anyways, Warhammer Fest, man. Day one, the AOS focus day. Tom, what did you think?
I mean, it's AOS. Um, it's great. I'm glad we got new models. We were confirmed that then this is the final book of Broken Realms, which is exciting ish. Um, yeah, yeah. The models are nice. I mean, we've seen a lot of them. The reality is we've seen a majority of what was like shown today as part of the reveal.
Okay.
What are your thoughts?
Yeah, my thoughts was I was right, and you can either accept that I was right, and I will accept all of your formal apologies written on vellum and mailed to a PO box. So at any rate, I thought Kragnos was super cool, but let's get into it, man. We got a lot of stuff here.
Yeah, let's talk it.
Okay, so we start off, of course. Really, there were two sort of main areas here
Yeah.
that we had: the
Mm-hmm.
Soulblight and then Kragnos. Basically, everything that's remaining until AOS 3.0, right?
Right. Right.
Okay. So we said that I'm going in reverse order because I don't like how it does it. By the way, I'm not counting this thing down here. We're not even going to talk about it because I don't care. So if
Sure.
you're excited for that thing, I'm excited for you next. Okay. All right. So let's get into the meat of it.
Yep.
Uh, the dire wolves, right? So we got our new little dire wolves here. What do you think of the new dire
Dire,
wolves? This is a model that's needed updated for a long time.
I love it. I couldn't tell if the Howling Direwolf
Mm-hmm.
is like if there are multiple builds or if it's like a set of fixed builds, right?
Yeah, sure.
But in my glance, like I don't want one in every five direwolves howling.
I don't know. I do. I think you talk about this
Do
guy, the
you?
guy who's like got his mouth
Yeah.
straight up in the air. Oh,
Yeah,
why
like
not, man?
I like it. Like I like it, but like it's gonna be weird. Like that should be the unit champion, right? And then you can find him really easily. Because he's the one leading the pack.
Sure.
But I don't know. I can just imagine because I've had other model lines where like you have a bunch of monopose stuff and there's just a bunch of I don't know. Like it's nice. I'm glad that we have new direwolves. It still bothers me coming into AOS and Warhammer in general, where like direwolves just mean like undead wolves rather
Yeah,
than like
sure.
dire wolves.
Now that rather than dire wolves, yes, coming from D and
Yeah,
D where they mean something very different.
very.
Yeah, I mean, I assume it's 1 in 10, and like, let's be honest, Tom, you're never gonna take them in units bigger than whatever the min size is because this is chaff and always has been.
I mean, I don't know. With the one wolf hero, maybe there's something there. Like
Sure.
you never know. You never know what's been written in the
It's
rules.
it's a fair point. If it turns out that that because of all the other wolf related themes in this bloodline, that wolves get really awesome and suddenly everybody's running 30 packs of wolves or something, that's fine. Just put the one who's howling, who becomes your doom wolf, put him way up on a big rock. So there you go. He's like the go for the three wolves pose.
Although I will say this, it's kind of funny that he's kind of like your musician.
Sure, sure, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
The
totally.
bird eating the back of the one with all the skin off his face is a particular
Yeah,
fave.
yeah. I mean,
This dude.
they're great models, and I'm glad that they got updated.
Yeah, I really like the way the flesh is worn away on them in some places quite differently. Some you can see bone, some there's still muscle. It's actually really nice. It's like they did a great job of kind of bringing that all together.
Yeah,
So
totally agree.
A plus on the dire wolves. I think they're great. I mean, look, what were you expecting? They're dire wolves, right? Like,
Yeah.
there's a top end on this. There's a ceiling. It's I don't know what to tell you.
it's
They're
it's
undead wolves.
hilarious to me. You've kind of keyed up to this, but hilarious to me that we have a bunch of like wolf themes,
Yeah, sure.
Like, and we've seen this with the other armies where they're like, you know what? Like, here's a single unit or a single idea. Let's blow this out.
Sure.
And like wolves, not what I anticipated in the vampire themes.
I mean, it's always been part of the vampire lore that, wolves
I'm
turn
not
into vampires.
I'm not saying that it's a bad thing. I didn't see them going this direction with like
Sure.
all of the wolves.
Yeah.
So
it says, remember a while back when we had all the rumors of like werewolves being in whatever this release was? That tells me where that rumor played telephone and got to us, because people saw all this wolf
there's like
related
all these wolf
iconography.
stuff, and these big guys, and
Yeah. So to me, these guys are a rousing success. I think they're great. They look like I would expect them to look. They're fun.
Right.
Again, still not dire wolves as I think of dire wolves, but they're great undead wolves. So
yeah, of course not. Yeah, they're fine.
They're fine. Speaking of wolf ladies, Belladamma here, the first of the Virkos, so she's the oldest, which the Virkos is like the wolfy bloodline. Somebody said she looks like the grandmother Tyrell or whatever from Game of Thrones, which I agree. Like, if she had been turned into a vampire, this is what she'd look like. I do appreciate that she has wolfy feet. Did you catch those, Tom?
I didn't. I'll have to look closer. That's
yes, she has
amazing.
little wolfy feet sticking out from beneath her dress. She is herself.
Of course she does. Oh.
Mm-hmm.
I like one. Let me just two things here. One, I think this is my favorite model of everything released.
Okay.
I do. Like, I really do like it. Like, I like the dynamic pose. I like the angles. I like the textures. It's just really interesting to me. I also hate the feet. You just made me hate something that I like quite a bit. And so I don't know how I feel about that, because at the end of the day, I think this is my favorite model out of what was revealed.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I dig it. I like all the other models we're sticking on bases, which is we're going to see as we go forward. Like, a lot of these new models, we've just got other hangers on just chilling on the base. So, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, what I will say is that, like, it was very jarring to me when I realized that, like, she has live wolves.
Yes.
And then everybody else has dead wolves. Sure. Like, I don't know that we see live wolves anywhere else.
It's a whole thing. They've got a thing.
I know. I understand that. Yeah. But that struck me when I was looking across the various images.
I mean, when you see this and the whole wolf theme, one does have to imagine that one of the things they looked at was going, okay, dire wolves are battle line, they're across the army.
Mm-hmm.
What can we do that's going to be synergistic for the wolf thing if somebody really wants to play into that, right? So, I mean, I imagine that they're trying to, as we've seen with a lot of these books, they try to open up avenues, right? When you look at, like, classic Seraphon, it's like, oh, what if you want to play the Skinky-based thing, or the Saurus-based thing, or the Monster-based thing? And I imagine here it'll be like, if you want to play the sort of Shambling Dead thing, or the Wolf theme, or whatever, right? Or the more mounted cavalry, or whatever. I love her little wolf feet. Don't hate. You had said, I wish they'd get weird. Well, now you're going to eat those words real hard.
No, like, I'm glad that they're weird I'm glad they're weird for just out of my bitterness. It's not that I want them to be weird, but rather
you said specifically, why don't they get the weird? Well, guess what, Tom? They got the weird.
Clearly, things that I loved were ruined, so I want it ruined for others. Clearly, that's what's going on here.
Gotcha. Well, I love her wolfy feet and think it's hilarious and awesome.
I know. Like, the weird feral vampire thing that got introduced in Cursed City and now is continued into this. Like, it's fine. Like, it's a direction they're going, and if that's what they want to do, like, cool.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things we'll say is this army's going to have a absolute metric ton of special characters. Between the special characters that they've already revealed, all the other different vampires, right?
Yep.
And we have our one generic vampire lord on foot, the bat hair lady, right? But now, clearly, we're just going to have all the special vampires we want. And, like, you already had two existing ones in Neferata and Manfred.
Yeah.
And now you've got all these new characters we're showing as well. And the ones, because the previous ones they introduced, other than Bat Hair Lady, they were all named characters.
Oh, named.
Every one of them. Okay. All right. Yeah, she's awesome. Now let's talk about the big boy. Oh boy, Radikar the Beast.
Spoiler alert!
Yeah.
Spoiler alert
Sure, I
for anybody
guess.
that plays Curse
Like,
City.
yes, exactly. Oh no, he wasn't actually killed at the end of the story. What a shock. Um, I don't think you can spoil that. That just feels like obvious. I mean, this dude
So
is Hoss,
heroes win.
right? I mean, this dude's Hoss, right?
And
This is amazing.
and he looks huge.
You,
Like
you think?
that looks like a larger base than what we had previously.
Yeah, he's bigger. He's unleashed. You know, it's the beast unleashed here. He was keeping it on the DL when he's in the city, right? He has to seem somewhat human and normal, right? When he's out there, and then once he's lost his political position, it's just like, okay, time to freak out, you know, and go into full beast mode.
I mean, is it kind of weird that these are like hybrid werewolf vampires to you? Like, is that unusual?
No, I don't think
Okay.
it's weird.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean they're just monstrous. I've seen. I mean, you know, there's a lot of different takes on vampires throughout the
Sure.
various mediums and things over the last century or so,
Mm-hmm.
and some of them are certainly much more bestial,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
I do like how he's got the two little guys on his base again. These little hangers on, right?
Yep.
Relevant from
And
the.
they're creeping on his junk.
They are creeping up on his junk. Yeah. Yeah, one of them looks like he's very. This guy right here looks like he's very scared by what he sees hanging out under this tabard, right? He is like, "Whoa, what is going on under there?" That is the look on his face. So,
Yep.
Radikar apparently is packing the beast. So, at any rate, yeah, I mean, this guy's good, and again, more that wolf theme, more in this same
Yep.
bloodline. One of the things we've heard is that in the book itself, he is going to be the only one out of Curse City that can be taken alone. That they'll retain the package buy premise. This was sort of a rumor going around. I saw that we'll talk about more this Wednesday, but that he was going to be alone. He was the thing you could buy alone. Now I don't know if he's going to have a transformation mechanic. Like, do you need his other form and this one? Right?
Interesting.
Or if
if this one comes, or if I don't know.
it's still up in the air. I know the rumor was his points are separate, so he's not part of the big pack. Okay, but that everything else, if you want to take it from Curse City, still maintains it's like you must buy all these models for this one price. You know, yada yada yada. Right.
Right.
So, but I'm glad to see at least he will be alone. This guy's a great design. Honestly, this flatlines his Curse City model. I mean, like, this thing blows me away, dude. Just the size, the brutality of it. That shoulder pad design is insane, right? Like this one, the metal shoulder pad up here, not the wolf shoulder pad. The blood dripping down into the goblet to feed his little minion. And by the way, the painters did a really awesome job on this with like his war paint and stuff that he has or whatever. Now, the question is on everybody's mind, Tom, was this originally meant to be a Cursed City expansion model that once they realized they were hosed on Cursed City, they were like, nope, forget it, move it around, just put it in here instead? Did that happen?
No.
Okay, you think this was always the plan?
Yes. And do you know how I know that?
I'm ready.
Because this wouldn't. I could be wrong.
Sure. Could be wrong. Could be right.
But I don't like. So they sold this as like the Soulblight Gravelord's army.
Yeah.
And I would assume the way that they've couched it that he will have a war scroll in the book itself.
Yeah, right.
I don't think that they could have made those changes at that last minute.
Fair enough. Yeah, I mean the book would have been printed months ago, sure.
Yeah, the book would have been printed months ago. And I don't think, it does not seem that Curse City's complications, whatever those are, developed like a long time ago.
Sure.
Like, it doesn't feel like they were known about. It feels like, no, there are recent developments that have led to this change of position.
Okay.
So I think he was always in the book. That's what I'm going to say.
All right. Fair enough.
Now, I will say, I think Curse City was supposed to come out in the fall. And
yes,
so,
it was. And obviously,
like,
this model itself was never like it would be tricky because he's really big and bigger than the
Right.
base they generally allow for board games like Curse City.
Right. And so I suspect that there was supposed to be a much larger time gap between the box and this book.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's definitely the case. Yes. There was supposed to be months and months in between these two. Yeah.
So this would have been more like a sequel, like you're finding out his fate much later.
Right. The game's already been out there for 4 or 5 months, and then all of a sudden we learn, oh no, he's the beast we thought was slain is returned. Yeah, and that would have been the nature of how they wanted to do this.
And instead of 3 weeks later.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. Cool. Just to look at a couple other images here, the pelt on his back and stuff, the little creeper over here staring at his junk. Yeah, I mean, overall this model's fantastic. I do hope that that this guy is like what I want to see out of all these different vampire lords. Let's talk about this big picture for just a second.
Okay.
We've got a ton of different named vampire lords.
We do. We do.
Like so many now.
All the named vampire lords.
And I don't have any problem with that. What I mean is, like, I love the idea of, like, vampires are very special characters. It sets them aside to have all these special characters in there. It's cool. I want to see new named people in the world. A+, good, yes, thumbs up. The thing that, rules-wise, what I want to see with these is that they all have some reason to exist in the army, other than just they're neat.
It strikes me that it feels like there's a real problem. No, problem's probably too strong. It feels like there's a real interesting. Okay, let me say it this way. I don't know if, for example, they're going to keep Graveguard, for example.
But the rumor was no new model. They are in the book. Continue.
Okay, and so what I was going to say is, like, when I look across the bodies of the army, it felt like there was going to be a really weird set of, like, holes where you're going to have lots of cheap chaff.
Sure.
And then you're going to have Blood Knights, and then on to heroes, but no kind of, like, intermediate, semi-elite style troop. Like, you don't have a lot of, like, multi-wound models in here, again, other than Blood Knights. It's just a real interesting set of decisions, right? That, like, of how I was thinking about the composition of how the actual army plays.
Yeah, under these bloodlines that they're obviously establishing, like, these are all in the what's the name of his bloodline? I'm sorry, Virkos.
Yeah. Virkos. Like, what do you do with that? Right? Like, because of the it just felt like there was going to be holes in the army because you're going to have a bunch of heroes that are going to have specialized rules, right? But what aspects of the armies can they actually speak to?
Yeah, sure.
Because you're going to have, like, skeletons and zombies still. Like, there's not going to, like, I don't know. Like, so it was just a real interesting kind of reflection of, like, what do they do with those things? Like, do we know what's happening to the like the Mortis engine and all that?
I mean, I think we'll see is the answer. My honest answer is I expect most everything to stay. No ghosts, no, like, it'll be all the ghosts are gone. Get back in your own book. No Archon in here. You know, he's off in his own book, right? You can see things like the Vargeist and stuff in the big army picture that was down below, so you know you're keeping most of that kind of stuff. You saw the corpse cart still here in the big army picture. You saw the Terrorgeist, the unmounted Terrorgeist still back here. So I mean, you get a lot from this picture that what you would expect of the core of this army is basically staying the same. And what my hope would be, what we open up here when we think about the different play styles of what each of these is going to do. That's exactly it. I hope that when we look at the bloodlines and how the special characters fit into them,
yeah,
right, is that we see that each of these rule sets opens up different possibilities for how we're actually playing with the army. Like you can go horde, zombies sort of stuff, just like true horde army classic with just a couple, squishier guys at the back, leading the fray. Maybe you can lean more into the heroes, right, and go for like the fast wolf theme where you've got like fast, hard hitting heroes charging in and trying to make a lot of stuff, right? More of like more of what I would think of as like an alpha attack strategy with these overpowered kind of hero hammer characters, right? Not in a bad way. None of that's meant to be negative, so I don't want to put any connotation on that, right? That's a perfectly viable strategy. That's effectively like how FEC often plays, right? Is that kind of a strategy. So yeah, I mean, we'll see. Let's keep moving along here. Oh, this one. This is going to be the Marmite one of the bunch, Tom. Let's talk about the Centaur Vampire, the Vengorian Lord. So this is the generic version. The sort of like male build of it is sort of the generic version, right? The half Abyssal Terror, half Vampire. And then you've got the special version up here, which is Lukavai, the Mother of Nightmares or whatever. I love Lukavai, the Mother of Nightmares. I think she's incredibly awesome. This fig is so great, dude. I love it. But this thing's gonna be Marmite as all get out. Like, even looking at it, and I can see people in the chat just going like, I love it, I hate it, I love it, I hate it. Good. Then it's a success. Like, that's a good model. If it inspires that kind of reaction in people. And this thing is horrific and weird and wonderful. That's my take. This is one of the best models they could have done. What's your take, Tom?
It's a good bust.
You mean you like the top half? Is that what you're saying? You like her top half?
I mean, what I'll say is, yeah, I mean, yes, like the scale of the upper torso is actually kind of bust style, which is what I'm making a joke about. Like, but a couple things. I think that it feels like it's straight out of Castlevania.
Sure, it is.
Right,
I mean, it's a weird horror monster, right? Yes, it is a sort of very strange, nightmarish creature.
Yes, so I want to acknowledge that. I like that. And so it fits. I don't like the wings down.
Okay.
Now I know why they did that. They wanted it to feel like a bat that's like curled up. Mm-hmm. Right? And so when you look at it, it has the look of like a bat that's like in resting position as hanging from the ceiling or whatever.
Sure.
And so I think that they achieved that very well. I just like, that's not imposing to me.
Okay.
And so I would have loved something that's a little bit more threatening, especially because her posture reads threatening, not relaxed.
Sure.
And so that, like, there's a disjunctive aspect to the composition of the model itself that throws me off. As well, I just think it's just weird that like the scale feels completely off.
Okay. Why so? I don't get the scale sense.
Because like this is not on like a 32 mil base. And so this is not a vampire. This is a giant vampire.
Yeah, she's big.
Right. Like, let's take it in another realm.
You saying because she's a bigger scale than 28 mil? Like, I'm trying to get at what you're getting at, Tom.
Yes, that's exactly right. Like, what feels off is that it, like, and you're going to be like, well, that makes total sense. But for me, it would be like having a goblin in a goblin army that's the size of a troll.
I mean, she's not that out of scale, for God's sakes. But I
understand
what you're saying.
Like, that's 100,
let's
that's
address
100
this.
mil
Yes,
base.
she's bigger.
Like, that's probably 120 mil. Like, if you look at the photos, she is like, that is Nagash size.
I don't know if they've got a photo with her in the middle of everything. Oh, I guess way down here.
Yeah, they do. She's Nagash size. And so like her upper torso
It's really
is
hard to
big.
tell on that.
Her upper she is a big model. She is not small. And so like it feels off as a vampire because she doesn't look like the rest of the vampires.
Yeah, I don't know. None of that
so,
bothers me at all. I just don't get it.
I get
because
that.
like we've
Totally
already
understand.
seen that oftentimes they'll vary the scale with bigger monstrous creatures.
So like she's not Kragnos size, but she looks Kragnos size. And it's just weird to me that it's a vampire that's huge, that's part towards, I don't know. Like that's what's so disjunctive to me is the actual scale of the torso and all that.
Fair enough. I love her. I think the face is excellent. I think they really designed this face is very feminine, something they've had some challenges with in the past, right? I like her being bigger and more imposing. She's monstrous, so yes, that's fine. She's bigger, in the same way that like Goro in Mortal Kombat is a much bigger humanoid thing, right? Because it's not a human anymore; it's a weird monster. Right? Like, I don't look at, like, Goro is still a human-looking dude. Right? Like, he's got a face, and I'm giving he's got 4 arms.
Yeah, but, like, his torso is out of scale because he has 4 arms and because he's monstrous in that way. Mm-hmm. But, like, this is not that.
Didn't they make a Centaur one of those, too, at later Mortal Kombat games? Anyways,
they did.
I get what you're saying. I understand. I don't want to beat the dead horse.
The scale, to me, is weird. And that's where my critique is. Mm-hmm. Like, inherently, I don't hate the monstrous thing. Like, I like what they're doing here, right? There are decisions in the sculpting that I would have probably chosen differently, but that's me, and that's not like I understand what they're doing and I respect that. And it's just the weird like I would have been way more okay if like it was a normal vampire riding this nightmarish beast,
sure,
rather than like it being the abomination itself, and then suddenly this vampire mutated to be huge.
Yeah, my answer is I'm good with it, but I think that's exactly why it's going to be Marmite. I don't like it's fine. My guess is, by the way, she's on a 100 mil round, given sort of the size.
Right, which is what Nagash is on.
That's probably true. Yes.
And so, like, again, it's just the scale thing is really weird for me because I'm trying to understand how a vampire became what she is and got to that scale, other than magic, right? Like that's what I think.
She's a big monster of death. She's a weird, magically created monster.
Is she a vampire though?
Sure.
Because, like, I don't know.
I mean, Radikar himself is huge. He's like beastly and massive. I'm good. Why are they so big? Because they're supernatural creatures, and she's like double supernatural because she's not only a weird vampire, but she's also a half abyssal monster.
It feels like we're just playing in video game rules. Like they're powerful.
Why are Merry and Pippin bigger than other hobbits?
Right. This is not the same. It'd be like, yes.
I don't know why it's not the same.
What? It'd be like Gandalf. Gandalf is a hobbit. He's just been scaled up. Like, he's a hobbit. He's just a really big hobbit.
No, this is like, we can go back. Do you remember the Mordheim wizard who kept eating warpstone and got real big, so they literally scaled him up? And he was bigger than normal humans?
Sure.
Look, I'm just saying. Sure. This stuff has, like, yeah, you can... I just don't buy it. I get that your brain is trying to ex post facto fit on, like, your conscious mind is trying to reverse justify why you don't like this. So you're grasping at whatever straws happen to see to pick out at your mind.
Again, the scale is something that jumped out at me initially. That's weird. Sure.
But like none of that changes. Your subconscious reaction was boo. Which is fine.
It's okay. Like I don't hate it. Like I'm glad that it exists. I'm glad people are gonna be excited for it. But it just didn't do it for me.
Fair enough. This one really does it for me. I'm excited for her. But again, I get she's Marmite. I love her. I love her.
Yeah.
Look at that face. It's great. It's great. Okay. Don't really like the normal guy. I would always build it as the female version. I think she's so much better than the male version. Mm-hmm. So, that's fine. It just you can use her as the generic one too. It's just this is my female Vengorian lord. Like, yeah, sure, fine, easy peasy. Uh, so yes, she's pretty fantastic. All right, and that leaves us behind with this, and we think we've basically seen most of the models now. So all in all, Soulblight coming out in May. We're only a few weeks away. They did say that this will be a May release. So we know we've got all these coming very soon.
Exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. Now though, Tom, it's time to get into the big story, literally the big story of how right I was and how wrong everybody else was. And I'm excited about that. So we saw all that they went through all the new models we had previously seen.
Right.
Techless.
Right.
The twins and stuff like that. And of course, they're all wonderful. We're not going to review those again. But yeah, we got the cover of Broken Realms Kragnos. We got a nice little video. We're going to skip his rules for a second and just go look at Kragnos himself. Let's get to the big boy. So Kragnos, he should be on a 130 mil round, as near as I can tell from looking at the all-in picture that is the thumbnail for this video. Because there were ogres pretty much on the same horizontal line with him, and it looked like if you set 3 ogre bases across his base, there'd be a little bit of hangover. So that would be put him on a 130 mil round. Pretty standard for a big boy. He's tall, super tall. He's a big boy. And there's a lot to break down with this guy, Tom. So much. Oh, just some fun things they mentioned. Like in the video, they mentioned that he's 18 wounds with a 2-up save, so he's going to be hardcore. They mentioned that he is a god, a demigod. That's what Jess called him. He's this sort of god beast, demigod, god of destruction, the lord of earthquakes. And they mentioned that his shield, the legend of his shield is it's like this incredible thing, and he chipped Gorka Morka's tooth once when they got in a punch up. And he sort of calls out Gorka Morka in his release video. What do you think about Kragnos, Tom?
I like centaurs.
Yeah. Sure. What's your take on this centaur?
I like big centaurs.
Sure.
He's great.
Okay.
Neat.
Yes, and he is the all-around leader. Like he can go into any of the armies. He can also clearly be built in some kind of Grand Alliance destruction force where you just all destruction get pulled into it, right? So he is just this rolling thunder that goes across and attracts destruction to him, right? I see there's been a lot of comments of people clearly not understanding why this centaur just jumped in here. Tom, what's your take on that? We've got this big centauroid monster, this new god of destruction showing in, and everybody's like, why isn't he Beast of Chaos? They have centaurs. Why isn't he Kurnothi? They have centaurs. Why do we have to get a whole new centaur?
Because of reasons.
You want to unpack that a little?
I don't know.
Gotcha. You're not sure you got any hot takes on this guy?
I don't.
And he was the monster underneath Beastgrave, and Croak is the one who locked him there. They talked about that in the video.
I think the answer is this. I think that he is probably going to be the archetypical centaur out of which all others derive. So the Kurnothi were domesticated. The ones in Beasts of Chaos were corrupted.
Sure.
And whatever this is, this whirlwind of destruction, the living earthquake, is a force of nature.
Sure.
And as were his people.
He's your centaur. He's like the centaur centaur behind it all. We see the other centaurs. He's like the one up here that's actually behind all of them.
Yeah, I think so. Aesthetics for me are a really big deal for armies. And I'm trying to envision running him with with ogres, because of scale, it's going to look like he has a bunch of toddlers running around. And so if you put him on the table with ogres, it'll look like a bunch of toddlers. If you put him in a giant army, he's literally just going to look like a bunch of dads with a centaur buddy.
Okay.
So like his aesthetic certainly calls out to a bunch of different armies, but I think that it's just, I don't know, like I hope there's an army behind him at some point.
Well, hold on here.
Yes.
Widgeon said GW hates orcs. I wouldn't bet on that, buddy. You're gonna eat those words pretty hard, I imagine, in just a couple months. Be careful with
or
with a
Saturday.
statement like that.
Or Saturday.
Or Saturday. Yeah, it might be like 5 days until those words become acid in your mouth. Just a little word of warning there. So
I mean, I just like, to me, it's just weird that we don't have any more of his aesthetics elsewhere. And like, I understand he's supposed to be this monolithic thing that's separate. I don't know. He doesn't grab me. I'm sure he grabs some people, and for those Destruction Bros, awesome. I'm glad that you love him.
Well, the Manzak said, I can't tell. Are we still talking about vampires? There's still a centaur on the screen. Funny. Yeah, two of the like biggest, craziest reveals today were centaur things. Everybody gets a centaur.
You get a centaur. Sorry.
Yes. My general feeling on this guy is I get what they were going for. They wanted to. It is a weird aesthetic choice. Like, I completely understand that pushback. I said he was destruction forever, and so that did not. I am not let down. Beasts of Chaos players who were let down, if you would have listened to me in the beginning, you would not be let down right now. But at any rate, to me, he's super AOS-y, and I love the fact that we're getting a new god.
Sure.
And I'm excited about the fact that that he'll open up doors to go into any of these armies or to bring the armies together in some interesting way. I'm excited that he'll sort of herald this age of like life and destruction and stuff like that. And I think he's overall a really cool model, and I think he's a good addition to the Pantheon. You know, in the end, some of the gods resemble their followers more than others.
Yeah.
Right? And as he says, like, he didn't start a god, right? So it's a question of whether they sort of remade them in their image or not, right? Like, Marathi looks like her snake people because she came out, she was an elf, she came out, she stole souls out of Slanesh, and then when she remade the Twisted Souls, they became snake people like her, right? Because of that taint. Yeah.
Yep.
Alariel doesn't look like most of her tree people followers, right? She's got a little bit of a woody arm and stuff like that. Sigmar clearly cast the Stormcast in his own image, right, as it were. Yeah. But this guy fought his way to the top. Like, destruction is ultimately a meritocracy, right? Yeah. Like, it's a very brutal, very simple meritocracy, but it's one where, like, if you want to be the biggest and the best, then you just punch harder than anybody else, right? You fight your way to the top. Mm-hmm. And so I kind of enjoy that it's sort of a left turn of what we got, and it's not just a big orc or a big ogre or a big giant or something like that, right? That it is this ancient creature that was so powerful and fought his way to the top that Croak and other heroes from that time were like, oh, we got to handle this and put him in a cage under a mountain.
Well, and with that, like, if he had been a big orc, then he's going to just be looked at as an extension of the orc army.
Right.
And so with him being other, you feel that.
Yeah.
That he's bigger than any of the current armies. I get that. It makes me giggle when I looked at him. The first thing I thought was, again, part of this is because I've been playing Magic, but one of the Theros gods is Iroas, which is the god of victory, and he's a big centaur, like a big mountain-sized centaur. And I saw that, and I'm just like, and like obviously one of his colors is red, and I was like, yep,
sure. Yeah, I mean, I think this dude's great. I think that let's do this, Tom. How many points is this guy? He can go into any destruction army. They said that. He's, like I mentioned, 18 wounds, 2 up save. We know we know he's basically immune to magic, right? Because he has this rule called the Shield Inviolate, Tusk Breaker. Each time this model is affected by a spell or an endless spell ability, you can roll 3d6. If the roll is greater than the casting value of that spell or endless spell, ignore the effects of that spell or that endless spell on this model. In other words, you're rolling against whatever the printed casting value is, not whatever the person rolled. So he's basically immune to magic.
Yep.
So Tom,
580.
how much is this guy?
580.
Okay, I'm gonna go 640.
Okay.
There we go. We have recorded our bets. So who have we got showing up in Broken Realms Kragnos then, Tom, that we know? We ready to go through the list of
totally.
what we're getting in Kragnos? Kragnos himself. So kind of all-ish destruction-ish. Right? The Gits. Right? Because we're going to get the integration of all of the Git stuff. The Gloom Spike Gits.
And he alluded to in the video, the announcement, that we'll have the spiders in there too. Like he identified them as separate, like Doomsday Gits, as well as the Skitter, or not the Skitter Strand, the whatever horde, Skitter horde or something. Yeah.
We've got some more Seraphon because we've got Mr. Croak. We've got cities because of the Witch Hunters.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, indeed. We've got Slanesh because of the twins.
Yep.
And we've got Sylvaneth because of the Piper over here that's on screen right now, as well as a new scroll for Ilariel.
Well,
let's do it. New 600-point Ilariel that is going to be worth it, dude. When they rewrite the Ilariel scroll, we're gonna get a sweet Ilariel. I'm really hoping so. I really believe it. So because I think they've seen what they've done with the other gods, and they're like, we can do better than this. We can do better than this.
Yeah, and we'll have Excelsius too, because we know that Excelsius is under siege.
Oh yeah, yep, you're right. There you go. So,
which I'm excited about. I've loved Excelsius as a city, so I'm really excited to see what it kind of come to life in the rules.
I agree. So there's going to be, it's going to be packed. This is going to be, I think we're going to end on a high note here. They also confirmed that this is the last book. This is it. Broken Realms over. So we all look forward to AOS 3 being announced on Saturday.
Yep.
Just might as well, lock it in now.
Yep.
Slam that button. Give us that new chamber. Show us them sweet new Bretonnian Stormcast and whatever new orcs are coming in the release box. Let's do this. Okay.
Yep.
And so that then raises the following question, Tom. You ready?
Yep.
Skaven. Blades of Khorne. Beasts of Chaos. 3 armies.
Discontinued.
Not touched at all in Broken Realms. Okay?
Discontinued.
Yeah, sure, that's what they're doing. We're just going to discontinue a Chaos God. You're over, Khorne. We're done with you. We're canceling Khorne. These 3 armies, does that mean, to quote Heywo Twitch, does this mean a battle tome is on the way? Okay, are these going to be our 3 candidates for early AOS 3 battle tomes?
Well, let me pipe in and say this. Beast of Chaos was one of our first battle tomes in the prior edition. It was literally, so it's one of our oldest.
Sure.
Bloodbound of Khorne has consistently been an underperforming army.
Sure.
And they've rewritten it 7 times over the course of 2 editions. So, that's an overstatement, of course. But
we've had 72 Khorne books. Yes, correct.
And so Beast and then Skaven. They're fine. I wouldn't be surprised if Skaven... Skaven could use some refining. So I think that the changes that would need to be made are going to be deep enough that it's going to require a battle tome itself. Okay. And so that wouldn't surprise me. And by the way, they probably are your new Chaos army.
Sure.
Because if you get a refresh Stormcast line, you're going to get Orcs as your primary new destruction release.
Sure.
Releasing a new Skaven line, not surprising.
Yeah, I mean, we all know that I would absolutely love to see a refresh of the Skaven line. It's aging. It's aging a lot. There's a lot of that range that has been around since literally the 90s. There's still a lot of that range in metal.
Yep.
It very much needs the Necron treatment.
Yep.
Where
and you had originally called that.
That would be what they do with AOS
as
3,
a release box.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you thought that instead of Orcs, it would be that.
Yeah.
I believe I called Orcs.
I think that's right.
In the
yeah.
fall.
Which I think you will prove out correct on that one.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, my hope is that that's exactly what that means. They didn't touch those 3 because they know that those 3 are going to be getting new tomes. Let's call it within the first 6 to 9 months. Does that seem fair? So by Q1 next year.
Yes, by Q1, by the end of Q1 next year.
Right.
I think
we would have at least all 3 of those new tomes in play.
Yes. And I wouldn't even be surprised if we see Skaven by the end of the year.
They could, absolutely. They have launched the lead up to Christmas army launch, like a relatively big something like that.
There's a regular October big army release.
Yeah, there's precedent for that, certainly. Yep.
Yeah. And so I think we could see an October Skaven release, October-ish. Obviously, all timelines are up in the air right now with logistics and all that stuff. But
sure.
Yep.
So I mean, there's just so much of that line that they feel like they could refresh, and and if you move the Skaven story sort of forward, spark off the clans into what they should be in AOS. Their last book felt like just a placeholder catch-up book, right? So like, hey, you've got all those figs. Let's just give you some way to use them, right? It didn't really advance their place in the world in the same way that cities did. When you look at cities, yes, it gave you like hey, here's how to use all your crazy figs. Right, that you have from your old Empire army or old, high elves or stuff like that, whatever, dwarves. But at the same time, it really set a narrative for them and a trajectory that they have continued to build on. All these new cities we keep getting, all these different ways to play. It sat them in the world. You understand how they advanced, where they were, why they were, what they were doing. It was a really, really, I think, landmark book. So I think that you could do the same thing with Skaven and the Under Empire. It's always been the dark reflection of cities. So I'd love to see that book happen along with a refresh of the model line.
Do you think, we've been calling this for like 5 years, so the answer is probably no, but I'm going to pitch it out there anyways. Do you think that that Beast could be our first gold faction?
Oh, Beast of Chaos? Like leaving behind...
Well, Beast of Kragnos?
Sure, yeah. Could they leave behind Chaos as their only sort of faction? I don't know. Beasts are always called the first children of chaos.
Yep.
And so it's hard for me to imagine, but I do believe they'll get a book pretty fast because they're aware that if they kill battalions in AOS 3.0, they're shutting back off marked beastmen, which is something that has a very long pedigree. I mean, it goes back to the 80s, right?
Right.
And people really love it. So they're going to want to reinstate that pretty quickly. So following with a Beasts book on the back would be interesting. Could there be break-off factions that could also run in destruction and get attracted to Kragnos? Maybe. That'd be cool. I'd be down for that.
The hordes of Kragnos.
I'd love to see that. I'd love to see Beasts ultimately have a lot of different ways they kind of go, where they lean more into chaos and lean into the marks and stuff like that, or lean more into maybe just destruction and their desire for kind of wanton rampant destruction of civilization. That's what they want. That's ultimately their motivating factor, right? Is to bring down everything that's been constructed, to bring things to ruin, which seems kind of like this guy's MO as well. Right.
That's what I said. So maybe this is our first gold faction.
Yeah, like truly gold faction. No, I don't count the Sons. Adam said weren't the Sons of Behemoth the first one. I don't count them because they had one. You could take one big model and ally it into everybody, but it didn't take much of its rules. It was just like, here's a big monster you can put in any army. Fine, I have no problem with that. But a gold faction would be literally like page 1, Chaos Allegiance abilities, page 2, Destruction Allegiance abilities, completely different army.
Right. Right, and they take on different keywords depending upon which. Yeah.
It would be like if you took the Seraphon's difference between Starborn and Coalesced, how that then branches the rest of the book. All the battalions are locked to Starborn or Coalesced, right? All the sub-factions are locked to Starborn and Coalesced. It would be the same thing here.
Yeah, it'd be great. It'd be great.
Yeah, so I'd love to see Kragnos lead that way and bring his Centaur boys home. So there you go. That was the reveal today. All in all, great stuff. I am very excited about Kragnos. I have my
those Witch Hunters ready.
What's that?
How about those Witch Hunters?
Yeah, the Witch Hunters are great. No, I mean, they're still great. And the question is going to be how much additional cities rules do we get beyond just...
like Celsius.
Beyond just that. So I hope we get the full rules.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, I have an Ogre army and an Ironjawz army, and a Sons of Badman army. Because, Tom, I've come to realize I might be a Destruction player.
I mean... Yeah, you're pretty Timmy.
I am pretty Timmy. And when they were like, this dude will run forward and smash everything, I was like, tell me more. I'm in.
Go on.
This is what I'm here for.
So are you just going to run him at Havoc? Just like nothing else but him?
I see no issues with this. I see no issues with this at all.
Him in 4 orcs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Dan wanted to know, Kragnos will get army boxes. What are the army boxes? Right? Like the battalion boxes.
Yeah.
That comes with the Broken Realms.
I don't think it matters because battalions are going away.
Sure, but we'll still get boxes that can be good deals for buying troops. Right?
It'll be something Seraphonish. It'll be something... Because we haven't gotten Seraphon. Yeah, we did. We got the... It'll be something like Skink-oriented Seraphonish, probably. Or Saurus-oriented.
Okay, there will be a Slaanesh one. There will be a Seraphon one. Again, as you said, yes, we'll get a different. We'll get the Starborn Seraphon one probably instead of the monster-focused Seraphon one.
Yep.
We will get a Sylvaneth one.
I think we'll get Excelsius. I think we'll get a cities.
And that's the 4th. Yes, those are your 4.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's a shame that like, hopefully it's mainly Stormcast, because if it is, I mean, it'll probably be some cities people, but if it was mainly Stormcast, then they would all be S battalions. It'd be like the Seraphon, the Sylvaneth, the Slaanesh, and the Stormcast all get boxes. Only S battalions in this one. We're bringing in the S tier battalions.
Indeed.
Yeah, so There you go. All right, cool. Good reveal show. Obviously tomorrow is like 40K. Wednesday is box games, which could be something. Who knows? Probably won't be. Thursday, I think, is another 4. Or no, Thursday's like, I don't know the whole schedule. Doesn't matter. The important part is we'll probably have to be back. We'll be back for our normal show on Wednesday.
You know what? I think we'll get a Gloomspite box. Sorry. Now that I think about it, I think we'll get a Gloomspite box.
Okay. I disagree, but all right. But we'll see. It'd be fine if we did, because then it would still be spiders, so that would be all right. It still fits. It's okay. We'll be back on Wednesday for the normal show, 9 p.m. regular time. As well, depending on when AOS 3 gets announced on Saturday, we'll of course be back to talk about that. So with that, thank you very much, everybody, for watching. Don't forget to hit like. Really appreciate it. It helps other people find the channel, other people find the show. There's a lot of you out there in the chat right now, and most of you haven't hit like yet. Would it be so easy to? Give it a like if you like Kragnos. Give it a like if you hate Kragnos. We'll know the difference. It's fine. You can vote for whether you like or hate him just by hitting the like button. Don't worry, YouTube knows which one you thought. So, it's cool. That's that new thought collection algorithm. At any rate, thank you so much, everybody, for watching. We really appreciate it. We'll see you next Wednesday.